Okay, welcome inside Under the Microscope video edition. This week, Brandon Thorn and myself, John Ledyard, give you guys a look at the Dallas Cowboys offensive line and the way that really they dominated the game up front against San Francisco's defensive front. Thought it was the key to the game, especially when Dallas got down 14-0 early on. There was not much panic from the Cowboys side of things, and they didn't resort to just throwing the ball a ton and putting a lot of pressure on their rookie quarterback. Instead, they continued to run it. They continued to rely on their strength of that offensive line, continued to run it effectively, and it ultimately paved the way for them to be able to come back and win the game, I think. So first one we're going to look at is an inside zone run. Brandon changed some things up. He put a little header at the top there with some info for you guys that will help you give a little context to each play that we look at. So that's pretty cool. We'll look at this inside zone run by the Cowboys and how they effectively negate the 49ers defensive front in the second quarter.
Yeah, so what's interesting about this scenario and how we'll kick it off here is, they're down 14 to the Niners in their place, and they continue to run the ball. Rightfully so. They have the best offensive line in football. But what's especially interesting is their left guard and left tackle are both backups in this game, but they still have, in my opinion, the best center and the best right guard in NFL alongside those two backups. And then Doug Free is just a solid player on the outside. So, and then Witten is, he's certainly a function of the offensive line in this offense. He's a great blocker. So they continue to run the ball despite being down 14, and they just stick with, their identity basically, and it winds up ultimately winning them the game. But we're going to kind of break down to see how that happened and maybe what the 49ers could have done better, if anything. So we got inside zone here. Let's just play it and we'll break it down. So, yeah, we really want to focus on Frederick and Martin here. Martin is trying to overtake the nose tackle, and Frederick's just working up to get Bowman. And they both do a really nice job.
That's a really hard scoop for Zach Martin. I mean, even again, you can say what you want. Ian Williams not in there for the 49ers. It's Mike Purcell, and they're relying on some of those backup personnel, but it doesn't matter. I mean, this step to happen in a flat has to happen really quickly. And Frederick, he gives a little punch for support. I'm not even sure how much he gets of Purcell there, but that's really just a hard scoop by Zach Martin, and you're asking your offensive lineman just to take that step and be able to dominate a reach like that, which is really impressive.
Definitely. And then, even the left tackle and left guard, they played solid this game, man. Chaz Green and Ronald Leary were solid all day. And it looks like they got Buckner there, and they're pretty much just trying to wash Buckner down to that linebacker on a deuce block kind of. Well, it's inside zone, so it's not really a true deuce, but it is actually because, it's a deuce just because, a deuce works to the backside linebacker, and
right.
That's exactly what they do here. So, yeah, just the offensive line, giving Zeke a really nice little alley to run and gain 9 yards on first down.
Great cut by Zeke too. I mean, it's a subtle thing, but if you watch Bowman here, Frederick does get to him, which is great, but Bowman kind of flies, or it might be one of the later plays, but Bowman kind of flies outside there, and he gets a little bit on Frederick's edge. I mean, Frederick still has a good grip on him, but Zeke just without any hesitation at all. Some guys have to slow up and then make that cut. Without any hesitation at all, he just changes direction real subtly, presses that landmark, and then gets vertical really quickly. I mean, his vision was one of my favorite traits about him as a backer, especially as a running back, especially inside. I just felt like he saw blocks develop really well, and without losing any speed at all, cut off of those well.
Yeah, and we're seeing more and more this season as it goes on. Zeke, people were saying Zeke, is number one fantasy running back in the league before the season, might win the rushing title and all this stuff. And, it's kind of a sluggish start a little bit, but we're seeing it now. I mean, and this is, minus two of their, really good offensive linemen. Zeke, kind of went off. So I think it's just going to continue to kind of build from here. So this is the very next play in the first quarter. So they ran outside zone, or no, excuse me, they ran that was inside zone. Yeah. That's good here. Okay, so here we go again. This time they have a different alignment. They have basically 2-3 techniques. I guess it's more of a head up 2 technique here, but so a little bit different lineup here for the offensive line to face. And again, Frederick just kind of does enough to kind of wall off Bowman here. Martin, again, easily just kind of seals off the backside block here. And then Leary and Green do their job. Frederick, this right here is nice, just to kind of ensure that Leary can overtake that block. That's a small thing, but it's really key in a running scheme like this.
Yeah, offering support on the zone schemes is really nice, especially when you have a backup in there that you can give that little punch, and that just allows Leary to really finish the block. And then it doesn't slow Frederick down at all. That the one thing that I think coaches get concerned about sometimes when they ask their offensive linemen to provide support on some of those zone scoops. When they do that, that lineman sometimes will get hung up a little bit there and be a little slow getting to the second level. But look how quickly Frederick realigns his hips with Bowman, and he's on track. And then Bowman actually does – this is kind of a tough spot for him. He's in space. Either way, Elliott can cut. So it's kind of he just has to make a decision basically. If he takes Frederick on, Elliott's probably going to get by. So he basically is in a tough spot because of the ridiculous amount of space that the other linemen have afforded Elliott to work in here. And I think he shoots. Is it inside here if you run it? I think Bowman
it is. And
Bowman shoots.
Frederick does a nice job of just kind of staying balanced in space because he is in space right now versus Bowman, and he has to really adjust real quickly here. And you can see Bowman kind of get out of the block, but Frederick does enough to wall him off.
Yeah.
He actually gets outside of him.
Yeah, Bowman just kind of cuts into the middle of the field there, and Elliott, without losing any speed, just changes direction again and makes a great read off that block.
Yeah.
Just a little jab step as soon as he sees Bowman go that way. That's what is special about a running back like Elliott and why he's going to be one of the best in the league is because, when Le'Veon Bell does this so well, a lot of the best backs in the league do this so well is they set up defenders at that second level to miss tackles or to be out of position. There's not really anything. It's hard to knock Bowman here. It's kind of it's difficult. What are you going to do? He sets you up with a jab step. You have to respect it in that much space. And right away, Elliott, boom, and he's going right off.
That's a nice job by Elliott.
Yeah.
Yep. Just taking what's there.
He's such a perfect fit for what Dallas does up front. It's just a match made in heaven.
Yeah, it really is. So that was the first quarter, back-to-back plays, just to kind of show, they would go on to score a touchdown there to make it 14-7, but it was largely stemming from the running game. So we're going to the second quarter now. This is 3rd and 6, right before halftime. Critical part of the game right here. You're on the opponent 25. He's gonna show really nice pocket presence here, but focus on the right guard and right tackle here, Zach Martin and Doug Free. Doug Free winds up blocking 2 people by himself. The 49ers are going to run an overload blitz from the right side here with what looks like Armstead. Not sure who that is.
Is that Ahmad Brooks? I think
it's Brooks. There's going to be another DB come down here. So it's going to be basically these 3 guys versus Martin and Free. And just watch how they pick it up and watch how Prescott kind of just maneuvers the pocket very subtly. So, 3 versus 2. Free.
Doug Free
does
literally.
A nice job.
Yeah, he's blocking a guy with each hand.
Yeah.
Joe Thomas did that a couple weeks ago, but with Free, that's.
That's a really nice job.
And from a defensive perspective, Ahmad Brooks is a veteran, and I'm not ripping on Free for this at all because he's out. Obviously, he was dominant there. But, if you're Ahmad Brooks and you're an edge rusher in this scenario, you can't get caught flush in the chest. And if you do, you can't let that punch linger. You've got to work your hands and get off of that and win that edge because Free's looking inside. He's actually kind of leaning inside. So he's giving Brooks that alleyway, really. He's slowing him down, but that's all he's really hoping to do. And if you're Brooks, you got to win there. There's just no excuse for not being able to get off of, one arm of a block. To give Free credit for doing all he could, but, with Brooks, that's just kind of, it's not an effort thing so much as just as a technical thing. You got to work those hands, lift that arm, slap that arm, something like that to get Free off that edge. And even initially, flip your shoulders, don't give him all that surface area to hit. Twist your shoulders and, give him a smaller target because if you set him up with your full chest there, you're just slowing yourself down. And it's a good job by Prescott. We talked about Prescott's work too.
I was just gonna say last week, when the people who watched last week's, Panthers and Vikings, we were talking about Cam Newton just needed to do stuff like this to make his offensive linemen look a lot better. Because really, I mean, if he would have just stood there, he probably would have got hit. But just this little sidestep to the left here, the video is kind of.
And you can see Martin and Free at the end. They're both right in the space that Prescott vacated. He just moved a little bit to his left, stepped up a little half step. It's just great pocket presence for a young guy. He saw where the blitz was coming from pre-snap. He saw where the pressure could come from. He knew in the back of his head the timing where he'd have to move, and he created a nice little throwing window for himself too by doing that. So it's just a kind of subtle but heady play from a rookie.
Definitely, and you see that overload from the right, that because there's so many people coming from that side, there's going to be a vacancy behind him, and that's exactly where he throws it. So it's just a nice job.
And by moving to his left, and I think, you can't see his eyes really in that scenario, but by moving to his left, and you can see his head kind of, he's moving through progression. See how he looks left there, and he moves that linebacker? Or is that whoever that is in coverage there?
That's really nice.
Window. It's just a good heady play from a young guy, and that's, to me, that shows, Prescott, the one thing that, and I wasn't high on him as a prospect overall coming out, but the one thing that I absolutely thought was true about his game is that he works his tail off, he studies his tape, and the mental aspects of the game are the area that's grown significantly for him. And so you see that kind of stuff there. You see that kind of stuff happen in his game. And as his game kind of is evolving even now, to be able to move players, with your eyes and move the pocket a little bit with your feet, but not panic at all, but be completely calm. Those have been his best traits so far, I think, his ability to stay calm and think under pressure and use his mind to defeat teams. Maybe that was a part that I saw it in his skill set, but may have underrated it a little bit too much with him coming out, because that's been what's the main thing that's led to his success, I think.
Yeah, seeing these kind of subtleties from a rookie in his fourth game is just really, really impressive. It's just something that even, 5, 6, 7-year pros aren't doing on a consistent level. So that's just a great job there. And they wind up scoring on that drive to tie it. So, right before half, to get 2 touchdowns like that to tie it, go into the locker room is, a great job by the offense. And then we're going to the third quarter now towards the end here. San Fran's up again by 3 this time. So we're going to see outside zone for the first time. And the Cowboys have the ball on their own 28. So this is again, watch Fredericks and Martin. They're kind of they're pretty much leading the way on every run, but this is another good example. It's just so impressive to watch Travis Frederick. I mean, just his hand placement, his athleticism, his play strength here are all on display. He's just going to hook, what I think is Eric Armstead. Zach Martin's just going to kick out this linebacker, and then Ronald Leary gets away with a little hold here, but Frederick's block here is just outstanding to kind of strain and run with this guy.
I mean, to reach a shade like that quickly and that completely, and Armstead's no slouch of an athlete, and Frederick just completely overtook him. I mean, there was no shot. He dominated the A-gap. It's just hands inside. There's you can't call holding, nothing. I mean, that's one of the best blocks you'll see from a center. I mean, that's one of the toughest blocks you'll see against an athlete with the length that Armstead has, with the quickness that Armstead has, and one of the best blocks you'll see. The ability, and you can see his shoulder. His shoulder has overtaken Armstead's shoulder play side, and that's what you want. He keeps his head on that side of Armstead's head, keeps running his feet. And, if you're Armstead, slow reaction off the ball for sure didn't help you, but you've got to be working your arms to get free there. I mean, not only is he getting dominated to his gap, he's getting pushed down the field too and giving up a lot of ground. So Elliott's got tons of space to cut off of there, and the linebacker has tons of space to fill.
Yeah, and then Zach Martin does a great job of kicking the linebacker inside out. Mm-hmm. And that's really, Frederick and Martin, again, that alley right here is just perfect. That's great play, and it just sets up Zeke, man. You keep putting him in positions to succeed, and he's going to take advantage.
Yep.
So we're going to the fourth now. Dallas is up now, finally, 21-17, and they're kind of in a 4-minute type offense here. This is what they love to do. They're in 12 personnel. This is just a staple. This is typically, you typically would see outside zone here. And they do like running outside zone to the boundary. And that's kind of what they're going to fake here. And they're just going to turn it into a little bubble. So it's just really just showing kind of what, the Cowboys have built on throughout the game to lead to this point, to kind of fool the entire defense just by showing outside zone initially and then, turning around and running a quick bubble screen to Cole Beasley. So it's just amazing what a run game can do. And if you have a good offensive coordinator to kind of play off of it, things like this are going to be open.
That's a great point. And this is a fun play. I love kind of some misdirection type stuff. Use one play.
Quick and easy.
Right. Use the strength to set up another one. It highlights really well how they've made the game. You don't want to say simple because it isn't like Prescott couldn't handle more. But whenever you have a rookie quarterback, getting him comfortable is a huge thing. Getting him easy reads, getting the ball out of his hand, getting successful, putting your receivers in situations to succeed. And so when you're an offensive coordinator, I don't think Scott Linehan gets nearly enough credit because I think he's a great offensive mind who really, in my opinion, and this is a conversation for another time, kind of saved things for Jason Garrett. I think that Garrett was really struggling until Linehan came along and took control of the reins of the offense. And I think since then, the Cowboys have used their strengths, which is obviously running an outside zone, running an inside zone, to set up other options for their offense and put their quarterback and receivers in position to succeed, which is what they did here.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, you want to give your quarterback easy throws like this just to build, a little bit more confidence and really, this is first down. I mean, if you can gain, I believe they gained about 7 yards here on first down. I mean, that's 2nd and 3 is a beautiful place to be.
Yep.
And we're going to see here, this is the last play I'm highlighting. This is the very next play. So they showed outside zone before. Again, we're going to see the outside zone actually executed here. And this is really just a critical drive in the game, because they're trying to keep the ball out of the offense's hands. And this run and that pass, do a really nice job of doing that. You got to love the Cowboys, man. I mean, they're in, 12 personnel here. They motion in the receiver here to create an extra gap. So you either have an extra gap to the offensive right, defensive left, or you have to deal with the left side, with the tight end as well. So you really don't know what side they're running to here as a defense. And you could see how many people were in the box. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah. Outside zone. I mean, this is just Ronald Leary here is who you should really watch. He's going pretty much one-on-one. He's trying to kick out DeForest Buckner here, and he does a really nice job. And then, of course, Frederick and Martin do a nice job as well. Just again, the alley for Zeke. This is a nice job by Leary because Buckner right there tries to kind of do a little push-pull.
Yeah.
And he just does a nice job. He's way lower than him. That's something that you noted about him. Buckner, that is. But, yeah.
Buckner, he is playing his gap here, which is good. He's playing assignment sound stuff, and he's trying to win his gap. But whenever you get that high and you try and use an arm over move against the run, and this is what I coach my guys, you have to do it quick, and you have to make sure you've cleared his hands because it's a risky move because if you don't complete it and get through that gap, you're going to get ridden straight down that line, and you're going to get washed out of that play completely and probably buried, especially against the guy who's going to win the leverage battle here like Larry is. And so it's a risky move by Buckner, and he can't really complete it, and because of that, he gets washed straight down. It's really a pretty easy read for Zeke. Martin's cut block really opens things up. Purcell really has a hard time recovering from that cut block, just not that type of an athlete. And Zeke's given a ton of space to work with, and that's pretty dangerous.
Yeah, and this linebacker number 50, I mean, don't get confused with number 50. That's not Chris Borland.
Yeah.
We're gonna kind of see. Yeah, he just kind of flows a little too far there.
And that's where Bowman would kind of stay in that gap when he was there. And this is, I think he's out of the game at this point. That's a bummer for San Francisco. But where he would kind of stay in that gap and hold his ground and not over pursue here. Trust Buckner to have his gap and have Bowman fill his there. Ballore kind of over pursues and makes this really a fairly easy block for for Travis Frederick, instead of having to square him up, in space where you don't know which direction the linebacker's cutting. Ballor's kind of overflowing to that side to Buckner's gap, and because of that, Zeke sees it right away and he's just slicing right through there.
And yeah, you could always trust Zeke to make the first guy miss at the second level. And
right. If you set up one-on-ones between your running back and a safety or a linebacker in space, at that second or third level, then you've done your job pretty darn well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and this kind of thing right here is what is going to allow the Cowboys to be, a major factor late in the year, because if you can run the ball like this, especially as it gets later on and the weather starts getting a little bit bad and stuff like that, and you can run the ball like this, and then Tyron Smith's coming back, and Leo Collins may or may not come back, but I don't think that's a big deal either way. This offense, if as long as Dak keeps kind of improving like he is gradually, they're going to be a force, man. The NFC East is going to be a lot of fun, I think, towards the end of the year, especially with them in Philly. It's going to be a battle.
Yeah, I think so. Dallas is I picked them to win the division even with the Romo injury, so I'm not necessarily surprised by what I've seen from them. But it's I think a lot of people are, and it's still even with the injuries they've suffered up front and no Dez, and the fact that they've kept winning in those scenarios, I think, is extremely impressive. And then the Giants are struggling a little bit right now, but that's still a very tough team. The Redskins have won 2 straight, and they're back to 2-2. And they may not be the team they were last year, but they're still a factor right now. The Eagles are undefeated. Carson Wentz is playing great. So this NFC East, which a lot of people thought 9-7 might win that division this year, it's looking like a pretty formidable group, and there's going to be a shot to get two playoff teams from that division, I think.
Yeah, definitely, man. I mean, this one was, quicker than normal, I think, but I think we got the point across of, Dallas's offensive identity and sort of how they closed this game out on the road yesterday or 2 days ago.
Absolutely. It's a dominant scheme with dominant players, especially Frederick and Martin, that are able to do what they do extremely well. That scheme, is aided by the fact that Prescott's strengths are smarts and kind of his feel for a defense, how to set things up for receivers. Scott Lanahan's play calling for sure has helped this unit succeed as well, using a play and a strength to set up another play and put his players in their best position to succeed in one-on-one matchups and things like that. And then Zeke's vision, and it's why he was the 3rd or 4th overall pick, whatever it is, I can't remember now, but it's why the Cowboys valued him that highly. It's because they knew if they had a back with the special qualities that he offers, that this unit was going to be able to do a ton of things, regardless of who was a quarterback, and Prescott's obviously stepped up admirably too. So it's just a really balanced offense. They don't panic, and they have a really good play calling, and even with some injuries, they've got the depth to be able to continue to be successful. So fun looking at that zone scheme. Always fun looking at the Cowboys line. I think you joked when we have a poll, the Cowboys we have a poll of which teams and which matchups people want us to review. The Cowboys always seem to dominate.
Yeah, I don't know if we're going to be putting Dallas in any polls anytime soon. We'll just pick them because, once those Cowboys fans get a hold of it, it's over.
Yeah, that's true. So hopefully you guys will check this out. Let us know what you think. Cowboys fans, 49ers fans, whoever else might be watching, let us know what you think. And, we'll continue to put these out for you guys and do the best job we can. Any suggestions are always welcome as well. So thanks so much for watching and listening, and we'll catch you again next time.